yeah. The corner singer on the mic, yeah. To the new view, let's go. I might not be able to see you, but you can see me with your mind, baby. Even though you may have sight, you should know that I am blind, baby. So don't judge me, get to know me. Don't rush, just take it in slowly. I could do much more than you know. I can open your mind with my eyes closed. Eyes closed, mind open. Come into my world and let me change your view of me. Eyes closed, mind open. Come into my world and let me change your view of me.
Hello, and welcome back to Eyes Closed, Mind Open. I almost forgot the title of the podcast that I host, which is, if that's an indication of how today is going to go, then y'all just better buckle up and be prepared. But I'm so excited to be back with you guys. Today, I have a very special guest. She's my boss, so I have to be nice.
No titles today.
I'm just kidding. She is our new VP of Clinical and Program Services. I think I got that right. And her name is Cheryl Rayburn. I'm excited to have a conversation with her today. She is bemoaning the fact that there's no questions ahead of time, but I think that's the best way to go. It means that everything is raw. There's nothing planned. We just come here and we get to share and talk with each other, have some fun. My favorite part about this podcast is just to be able to spotlight people so that they can tell their stories and share their experiences. So that's what we're going to do today. Hopefully, I won't have to do much talking. We'll just let Cheryl do it all, and she can share her story. And hopefully, you come out on the other side a little more inspired, a little more motivated, all the things. So, Cheryl, who are you?
Well, good afternoon. I'm just delighted to be here and having this conversation with you. You know, when you ask who am I, I'm just a woman who has happened to lose her vision, but I'm so blessed to have a beautiful family, a loving husband, 2 kids, 3 kids now that our son is married, and 6 grandchildren, and a job that I absolutely love waking up every morning and going to. So my story is, it's my story, but it's so similar to thousands of stories across the country, with a few different colors of paint in the picture. So when I was 16, I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa. And this is a progressive eye disease that causes vision loss over time. You start out losing your peripheral vision, and then as your peripheral vision tightens up, your acuity deteriorates at the same time. But when I was 16 years old and diagnosed, I didn't know anything other than, what was I going to be doing on Friday night? But I knew enough to know by watching my father, who had the same eye disease, that it was something I need to pay attention to. When I was a senior in high school, color blindness set in. And, there's nothing worse than showing up your senior year to homeroom and your girlfriend goes, "Sister, you have brown pants on and a purple shirt." And I went, "Oh my God." So I did what any normal, teenage girl would do. I walked to the office and called my mom and begged her to bring me something different to wear. And she did. But that's when, I started to realize, okay, things are starting to change, but I didn't let that slow me down. I went to college. I attended Missouri State University in Springfield, Missouri. And my senior year in college, night blindness set in. And I went, all right. And I knew it had really kicked in when I was driving my car and I was backing out of a spot and I backed it off a 3-foot cliff. Right. And I thought, well, I have 2 choices. I can either get out of the car and pick it up and put it back up, or I can gun it and pray I don't lose my front bumper. And I still had the front bumper when I was done. And I went, okay. So that was the time when I said, all right, night driving is over. And I started throwing my keys to other people. And I didn't let it slow me down. I kept on moving forward because we get a choice in this life, and it's how we proceed and move forward. So after graduating from college, I met, my husband and I had met, and he imported me to Kansas City. And, when I graduated college, I wanted to, travel to Europe and be an import-export and all of that. So we like to say I was imported from St. Louis over to Kansas City. And Curtis and I, we got married. We had a home in the suburbs, 2 beautiful children, and I had a career in the mortgage industry. And I loved my life. I everything was going great until I started losing what I call my little independences. And that the depth perception became an issue. Reading contracts and title work and, documents for home closing became a challenge. And I said, I I need to start paying attention to what to do next. And in 1999, I had a moment. That's the year I turned over my car keys. And for many people, that's very challenging. And for me, it was tough. I was in the car with our young son, and he used to tell Mommy if the light was red, green, or yellow. And he decided to tell me the light was green when it was red.
Oh.
Yeah. But everybody was okay. Not me, because I thought, I put my little baby into a tough situation that was unfair.
Mm-hmm.
And so walked in the door and handed over my car keys. And I really looked at that. It was tough, but it wasn't as tough as I thought it would be, because I thought, I'm still blessed. And how are we going to, navigate around that?
Mm-hmm.
And so about a year later, on January 20th of 2000, was perhaps the toughest day of my entire professional career. And that's the day I walked into the president's office of the mortgage company that he and I started, and I resigned. And I resigned because of my vision loss. I resigned because I didn't know about low vision rehabilitation. And that's something that I want anyone listening to this podcast to understand, that when you are faced with something like this, be sure to look under every rock and ask questions. Because I didn't ask questions right away. I just resigned, and I went home, and I looked up to God, and I said, what next? Mm-hmm. And the silver lining in that was God answered, as he always does. Mm-hmm. And I spent the next 14 years being a stay-at-home mom.
Which is beautiful, by the way. I'm just saying that I feel like a lot of people, this is a little off topic, but I will go on the tangent.
Please.
A lot of people, especially younger people, say, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. And I wish that they would take the just out.
Right.
And know that probably the most beautiful thing that a woman can be is a stay-at-home mom.
It was.
And to love on her kids, to serve her kids, and to raise them up the way they need to be raised up.
You would be correct. And it was truly a silver lining. And I was challenged at first. I'll admit, after 2 weeks of being at home, I called my neighbor and I said, what do you do all day? And she goes, well, I get up and I, make breakfast and I clean the house and I get ready for I was like, all right. So I called my husband. I said, this isn't going to work. And he said, well, why don't you run the house like you run a business? And I said, oh, I could do that. So the washer and the dryer and the dishwasher became employees. And, if one would break, I'd give it a pink slip and go hire a new one at Nebraska Furniture Mart. But it's all in your attitude.
Yes.
Okay. And I was very active in our community with church and scouts, and my husband and I was cheer mom and golf mom, and you're right. I was blessed to be able to spend that time with not only my kids, but the children in the DeSoto School District, who so many of them. One of them just had a baby shower yesterday. I said, when did that happen? But raised our family and took care of the home, and during that time, though, I'll tell you, The last 5 years or so, I started losing my big independences. And that was, I lost the ability to prepare meals. So I felt like I couldn't take care of my family. My love language is preparing food for the people I love. I lost the ability to manage finances. So I felt a loss of responsibility. I lost the ability to use computers and cell phones. So I quit 2 book clubs because I didn't know about Audible books.
Yeah.
So I kept losing and losing and losing until I became isolated, alone. I'd pulled back from everything. And when our youngest went off to college in 2014, Shelby, I sat down on the sofa, Hannah, one afternoon. It was a hot summer day in August. I know it sounds like a book, but it's true. A hot summer day in August. And I sat down and I cried.
Yeah.
Sobbed because I was lost. I was alone. I had separated myself from friends and everybody. And I looked up to God and I said, what next?
Yeah.
What are you doing here? And he answered as he always does. I remembered this place, another agency just like Newview, Oklahoma. And I called him up and I took a tour just like we give here at Newview. And I went home and I told my family, that's where I'm getting my life back. That place, low vision rehabilitation, clinical exams, that's where I'm getting my independence back. And I knew that's where the magic was.
Yeah.
And so I'll tell you, I walked in the doors on July 20th of 2015. And I walked in the doors, and it was the first time in years I hadn't held on to somebody's elbow. And I walked down the hall, and I took steps to get my life back.
Yeah.
And I learned orientation mobility, how to navigate my surroundings. I learned how to prepare meals again and pay the bills and match my clothes. Learned how to clean the house. I could have done without that training. But I learned about Audible books. I learned how to eat food in public again.
Yeah.
Just the basics. I learned about smart home devices. I can use my cell phone and my computer. And then when I went there, I thought, I just want to know how to take care of my personal self and my family, because I didn't think I was ever going to be able to go back to work.
Yeah.
And I quickly realized that the people that were showing me how to get my life back, along with the people on the other side of the business who were employed with good jobs, making prescription bottles and things, that they were blind and visually impaired too. I said, I can go back to work. And so I finished my rehabilitation and I went looking for a job. Well, I joined their board of directors and I went looking for a job and nobody would hire me. I said, what the heck? This is a problem, because I could do any job just with a few minor accommodations. But there's a challenge there. And I thought, okay, this is an issue that we in the blind and visually impaired community need to address. And I know you're addressing it, just as I've been addressing it with, government affairs, public policy and advocacy, and talking with our legislators. And not only with our legislators at the local, state, and national level, but with businesses, corporations, and getting educating them on the fact that people who are blind and visually impaired can do just about any job in their business. Just give us an opportunity to show you how.
Right.
And honestly, the accommodations that are needed are typically less than $500. And the retention rate for people who are blind and visually impaired is the national average is 80%.
80%.
Right.
Yeah.
And at Newview and other agencies like ours, the retention rate is north of 85%.
Yes.
Because these are good jobs with good benefits. And all we want to do is put a roof over our head, put food on the table, and live a life just like everyone else. Because I think you got some fun stuff coming up in your future too, Ms. Hannah.
I do have some fun stuff coming up in my future. And I will say that's the beauty of Newview's mission and why I love, going to these businesses, going into legislators' offices, doing all the things that I do, is because I get to talk about how, New View is all about empowering people who are blind or visually impaired, giving them their lives back, just like you were talking about. Just what that agency did for you, that's what we try to do with Oklahomans. And I think we're pretty darn good at it.
I'll tell you. So that's fascinating. That's good that you say that, because as I went looking for a job, a position came open to serve as the intake coordinator for that low vision clinic. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, I'll do that. So I started out scheduling appointments in the low vision clinic, doing frontline sales in the retail shop that sold assistive technology and adaptive equipment for people who are blind and visually impaired. And I loved it. Mm-hmm. And about 18 months later, after a few conversations, I became the practice manager for the clinic, low vision clinic, and managed the store and eventually their senior adult programming, and worked hand in hand with the rehabilitation manager. And I was looking around and I said, I wonder how other agencies do it. And everyone said, you've got to go to New View, Oklahoma. And I went, all right. They said, Lauren Branch has a program that is second to none. I said, okay. So I came and I toured and I went, wow, okay, they've got it going on over here. So I went back and I implemented some of the things I had learned. And then collaboratively together, the doctor here at the time, Dr. Riley and I, we collaborated together to make it even bigger, better, stronger, and deliver a low vision service model that it was served the mission. Mm-hmm. And, after doing that for a few years, they asked me to join the development team, fundraising. And with that, I had two primary jobs. Okay, three. One was community outreach, which is something you do. Well, going out into the community, not only telling people about the services that we provided, clinical and rehabilitation, but also educating businesses on how, there's this workforce out there that would love an opportunity to work for their business, and here's how. So I did the community outreach, and then on the fundraising side with major gifts and individual giving, and then with their volunteer engagement program. And it was fun, and it was exciting, and it was providing the much needed resources, because these low vision clinical and rehabilitation operations, there's a gap between what it costs to run this business and what we receive from medical billing and state funding. Mm-hmm. There's a big gap. So that fundraising is critically important. So if anybody is ever really wanting to know how they can support our agencies, please look to our development team and consider contributions, attending our fundraising events, our end-of-year giving, however it would, your time, treasure, and talent is what we're looking for, because you can give in so many ways. But so I served in their development team, and then I started, going, looking for something else. And I was receiving an opportunity to work for an agency in Florida. And my husband and I said, the kids are out of the house. We're planning on returning to Florida. And we got down there, and I said, I'm homesick. He goes, I know. I said, how do you know? You've heard this. He goes, because every morning you play John Rivers' Take Me Home. I said, you're right. I hadn't even thought about it. And because we have, our children and our sick grandchildren and our parents. And so we did. We made the somewhat difficult decision to move back to Kansas. And we're home now. But then I was connected with Lauren, and one conversation led to another. And now I'm serving in this really blessed role to manage, teams of professionals who are committed to the mission, who get up every morning and come to work and to provide hope and inspiration to people who are of all ages, children, our babies and children and teenagers and working aged adults and seniors, to give them the skills and the tools and the resources they need to live life on their terms, like someone gave to me. And how blessed am I that I get to work with you every day?
Oh,
So that's my story. It's simple. And like I said, it's similar to many stories all across this country. We just all have our own little set of colors for that picture that we just painted. What kind of questions do you have for me?
Well, it's true. I mean, it is a kind of uncanny how similar our stories are, but also how very different.
Right.
Only because, growing up for me, blindness is all I ever knew.
Right.
And so I had struggles, but I had different ones from yours. I didn't lose things over time. I didn't have to give things up over time. And I didn't hit the rock bottom in the same way you did.
Right.
And I think mine happened more in my teenage years, which is where, when you're in elementary school, and this is what I tell people when I go and speak.
Yeah.
When you're in elementary school, everybody is your friend, or at least that's how it used to be.
Right.
I don't know about today, but that's how it used to be. Is we were all friends, and I saw no different. Everybody still treated me the same, and they would grab my hand and take me out to the playground, and everything was fine. And then middle school happened, and everything was not fine anymore. And that's where I really first had to learn how to advocate for myself. But thank the Lord that He saw fit to provide me with amazing parents who also advocated on my behalf, fought for me, and made sure that I had equal opportunity and access. But I mean, the first thing for me was band. I desperately wanted to be in the band and play the clarinet. And the band director said no. He said, "You don't get to be in the band. I don't have time to teach someone like you, and it's just going to take too many resources, and I just don't think you can do it, so no." And we knew that he couldn't do that. So, we talked to the school, and he changed his mind and let me in the band. And at the end of the year, I was first chair clarinet, and he got up in front of the school and apologized, which I think was very brave of him, honestly. And I have no ill will towards him, because I will say, this is kind of what society has been taught in a lot of ways. They're just ignorant, and it's accidental ignorance is what I like to call it. And they just don't know any different. And it takes people like me, and it takes people like you going out and talking and saying, this is who we are, and this is what we can do.
Right.
And so that's what I had to learn very early on. But I think the biggest challenge for me was finding friends, especially in middle school and high school. And I had no one. No one. I mean, my mom was my best friend, and then my sister. My sister is 4.5 years younger than me, and she is my best friend to this day. We are inseparable almost. But for me, that's what it was. And that's where I started to, for a while, feel that pity.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that, the Lord is just so good in how he just provides what you need when you need it. And that's really part of, I could go delve more into that, but I think, we don't have time. But man, the way that He put things, people in my life, circumstances in my life, exactly when I needed to mold me into the person that I am today. And I don't think I would be here today talking to legislators, reaching out to the community, and doing what I do at Newview and loving what I do at Newview had I not gone through all of that.
Right.
Though it was horrible in the moment, I think, so beneficial for me to go through.
We're faced with challenges, and, I think those challenges that I faced, and I say, color blindness set in, night blindness set in, and I looked at it as, okay, move on. How do I keep going? Because we get a choice in this life and how we handle things, and it'd be so easy to go home and curl up in a corner, but
yeah,
that's not what we want.
No.
And I asked my husband about 15 years ago, I was crying. I said two things to him. I was crying, and I said, "I'm so sorry for what I'm doing to you." And he goes, "What are you doing to me?" I said, "Well, I'm going blind." And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I knew you were going to go blind." I said, "How did you know?" He goes, "Because when I asked for your hand in marriage, your dad said she's going to lose her vision." And he says, "That's not why I'm marrying her."
Yeah.
And then the second thing I said, and it wasn't at the same time, it was around the same time, I said, I don't know why God's taking my vision away. And he says, God has a purpose for you that's bigger than yourself. You just got to figure out what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the woman who wanted to own, my dream was to have my own mortgage company someday.
Yeah.
And on January 20th, 2000, that went away. And I realized today that wasn't what God had planned for me.
Right.
God put me in this seat across from you to help ensure that people who are losing or have lost their vision have hope.
Yeah.
Hope is pretty darn powerful.
It is.
And then to have a team of people, certified professionals. We have 2 offices, as you know, one in Oklahoma City and one in Tulsa, where we have low vision optometrists who specialize in low vision. And we have a OD techs, and we have low orientation and mobility specialists and assistive technology specialists and Braille instructors and occupational therapists and CODAs and these teams of people who get up every day to come to work and wrap their arms around people who are walking through the door. It doesn't matter if you're a baby and they're a family or parents of children and teenagers. It doesn't matter. They're there to give them the tools and the skills and the resources they need so that they can live their life on their terms like you and I are doing.
Yeah.
How blessed are we?
Oh, it's true. It's true. Every day. Every day. That's how I start. Thank you.
Yes.
I thank you for the life that I get to live.
Right.
And thank you for the good and the bad, because all of it shapes who you are.
Who we are. Right.
And so, yeah, we are extremely blessed. And I know that. And I try not to take it for granted.
I know, right? So tell me, just out of curiosity, what has been your biggest challenge in your adulthood?
In my adulthood?
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's a good question. I think like there's plenty of, honestly, like the little ones are the ones that get me. I think like, it's fairly easy for me to be positive in pretty much every circumstance.
Right.
And I think that's, how I was raised.
Mm-hmm.
It's a product of how I was raised. My parents instilled these values into me.
Me too.
Walking down the halls of Lake Park Elementary School, shout out. And, it was this big old long hallway, and my mom would walk me down, and this started at 3 years old.
Yeah. And
she would look at me and she says, now what is the thing that you always need to remember? And we would do this every day. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And we did this every day. And it became a mantra in my life. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm usually very positive, regardless of what happens. Mm-hmm. However, it's the little things that get me. For instance, one day I ordered food and I live alone. And so I ordered food. It was very windy that day. Well, I thought I had asked the person to meet me at the door and knock on the door, but I guess I accidentally had them leave it at my door.
Yeah.
And so this food was just sitting there, and how the Oklahoma wind can be. And it just blew away.
Oh,
and
no.
I stood on my porch.
Yeah.
And I had just a pity moment because I was just like, well, I don't even know where it went. Like, it's gone. I just wasted money. I don't get dinner now. And
you had so that just happened to me over the weekend. I ordered food and it was brought to my room and I opened the door and there was nobody there, and I shut the door and I waited 20 minutes and I checked and they were supposed to be there, but I opened the door again and then I used my foot to kind of sweep to see if it was on the floor. Yeah, it was. Yeah. And I knocked my tea clear across the room, exploded. And I went, okay, so much for the tea.
Yep.
Is the food okay? And it was okay. Wasn't your experience, but yeah, it's the little thing.
It is just those little things because, and I will say, there are bigger things too, things that are outside of my control that I will need help with. Like, it doesn't matter how good your cane skills are. It doesn't matter, like my dog got out one night. And by the way, I love my dog more than most things in this world. I am not ashamed to say that she is my companion And she is the only way I'm able to live alone because I'm a very social person. I don't do well being alone. Dolly is what helps me.
Oh, is that her
be able to
name?
do that. Yes. So my dog is named after Dolly Parton. Her name is Dolly Jolene.
Good dog name. Yeah, I love that.
But anyway, she got out one night. And of course, I'm not going to be able to go find her on my own. That's not something that I'm able to do. And so I had to call my dad, who lives, 7 minutes away.
Right.
And say, Dad, I don't know where Dolly is. Can you come? And waiting for him to get there.
Yeah.
And then, all of that. There's a lot of fear, but also frustration and anger.
Sure.
That I can't do this on my own.
Right.
And it's not because I don't have the skills. It's just a situation that is completely out of my control.
Right.
And Hannah Kinsey does not do well when things are out of her control.
Same here. My husband would say I'm a control enthusiast. I said, well, call it what it is, but okay.
Yeah.
But to some degree, I find, I'd be interested what you think, that we lose control of so much that we have to be in control of the things that we can.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
For example, and this is such a basic thing, when we go grocery shopping, and my kids did this growing up, you had to put the groceries away right where they were before. You have to put the green beans in one spot. You have to put the diced tomatoes in one spot. And the funny story behind that is I was making homemade salsa in the food processor. And I thought I was dumping diced tomatoes in. No, it was green bean. And needless to say, the family comes in and they go, why is the salsa green? Did you make verde salsa? I said, no. And they said, oh, Cheryl, you put green beans in the salsa. I said, well, it looks like somebody here who has a driver's license needs to go get some more cilantro because we have to have salsa with supper tonight. But we have to stay organized. Let's take the word control out and just say we have to be organized.
So that's actually fascinating that you bring that up because I am so unorganized at home. I do not put my cans in a specific order.
Oh.
I don't. And the thing is, I think I've relied so much on technology that I don't care. So
there you go.
Yeah. So, I can pull my phone out and scan a can.
Right.
And know what it is. And so for me, my thing is, man, just put those groceries up as fast as you can and don't care where they go. There's some sort of organization. I'm not saying that I just live in there, right? Disarray, but
and I do the same with my phone. But our son, when he got married, his wife, when we were talking one night, she goes, "Man, he does not allow us to put canned goods anywhere in the cabinet except where they belong." And I said, "You don't have any blind people in your house." She goes, "I know, right?"
That's awesome.
So, it's the little things.
It is the little things, but I do think it's fascinating. I've had other people actually on this podcast say everything has to be organized. My husband likes everything in a specific spot and not just in the kitchen.
Right.
Like if you put things on the coffee table exactly like he likes it. That's that one of my, the people that I had on the podcast, my guests said. And I was just like, I find that so fascinating because I live life kind of like spontaneously, I guess. And so, I'll come home and I'll throw my cane in one spot and then I'll put my bag somewhere else and then I'll put my keys somewhere else. And, sometimes that makes life an adventure because I don't remember where I put the things. But I just, it's just a little different for me. But I think it all comes back to, we all have different personalities.
We do.
And would a little more organization maybe allow things to go a little quicker in my life? Possibly. But it's just not how I operate all the time.
If it's not something that's frustrating you, then don't worry about it.
Exactly.
And I think I love being flexible and spontaneous and my husband and I just love to, if we decide we want to go do something, we just go do it. But I do have a sense of a need to be organized because that frustrates me. But to each his own. And that's what, when you go through your low vision rehabilitation, they teach you the different skills, but then they work to help you make it your own.
Yes.
And I think that was key for me when I was going through low vision. Where did you go through your low vision rehabilitation?
I didn't.
You didn't? Wow.
I didn't. So I went to public school all the way throughout.
Yeah.
I went to the school for the blind, twice in my life, maybe.
Yeah.
And it might have been a little more than that, but
Okay.
I'll tell you. So, public school all the way throughout. My parents just taught me everything. Of course, I got to do fun things. Like I went to Al Camp through Newview when I was little. Yep. That's when I first met Lauren.
Yes.
And so she's known me for a long time. I'm sorry, Lauren. But so I did that. And then I think between my junior and senior year of high school, I went to the School for the Blind over the summer.
Okay.
And, it was just to make sure that everything was okay. And they had like a summer
so
kind of
you
school
got
thing.
something along the lines of a homeschool low vision rehabilitation.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. So when I went to the School for the Blind, they kind of, the first day I was there, they ran me through some things. They were like, okay, they like stripped a bed and they said, remake this bed. And I was like, well, okay, my parents make me do this all the time. And then they said, here's a shirt and some pants, put them on hangers. And I was like, okay,
all right.
My parents make me do laundry too. Like, like to me, these were just completely normal things.
Right.
And by the end of the evaluation, they said to me, we don't know why you're here. And so I guess that meant I was, we were doing pretty well at home. And I think, it's a lot different when you have been blind since birth. And of course, everybody has their own stories and ways that they've dealt with things. But for me, my family was always determined that, my sister and I were going to be treated the same.
Yep.
And, we might have different ways of doing things, but I mean, we're still both going to do our chores.
Yep.
We're both going to, get school done and have extracurriculars. And, even if it meant that we go outside in the backyard and my sister, she played softball, would pitch to me, which by the way, that was terrifying, especially because at first she didn't put the catcher's helmet on me. So, I got beamed in the head and then Dad said, hey, maybe put the catcher's gear on. But everything,
how blessed are you? Because
exactly.
So what would be your advice to parents who are raising children who are blind? I think I know what the advice is, but let's hear.
Exactly that.
Yep.
Treat your kids like they are just any other kid. Give them the same experiences.
Yep.
Allow them to do the same things. Do not hold them back. Do not be afraid. Let them live.
And thank you for saying that way, because, when you send your child to, for example, here at Newview, our children's program and our transition age program, we give the children and the teenagers opportunities to do things that every other sighted child gets to do.
Yes.
Okay. Those social activities, Al Camp. Oh, they had a great time this year at Camp Classen. We had a group of 15 kiddos go, and they went when sighted children were there, and we're not sure who got more benefit out of the deal, because our kids were playing right alongside the sighted kids. They were doing the rope climbing, they were swimming, they were archery. I can't remember if they were horseback riding or not, but they did all the same thing, and they got to be kids.
Yes.
I say let them climb the tree. If they fall out, they won't fall far. They won't do that again. But
right.
And please no, we're not putting the children in danger at all. But we're letting them be kids under careful, supervised professionals who know how to handle those situations. And our teenagers, helping them, write a resume and what not to wear, and, how to shake hands and how to make eye contact, and how to interview for a job and advocate for what they need, and just all those basic skills that they're learning under the guidance of professionals. And it always amazes me when we get a kiddo in who's never done chores, but their siblings do.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh no, they need to do chores just like their siblings, like you did. And they need to be held to the same standard. They can do it. They just going to do it a little differently. Just like I always tell people, I can do anything everyone else can do. I'm just going to do it a little differently.
Yeah.
And there are things that I'm going to do a little quicker, and there are things I'm going to do a little slower. But that's human nature.
Of course. Yeah, I love that. And I think it's cool that you said that about Owl Camp, because honestly, that's what I got out of it. Because for me, and Owl Camp was a little different than it is today when I was at Owl Camp. But for me, I had already gotten to, swim and jump off a diving board.
Yeah.
I had already gotten to go on the lake and, ride in paddle boats or whatever. I got to shoot BB guns and do all the things because my dad is a Marine. I almost said was, but you're never out of the Marines, even when you're out. And so, we did things like that.
Sure.
But to watch the other kids get to experience that for the first time, I will always remember that.
Right.
I mean, that's something that sticks with you when they actually get to experience things that a lot of other kids get to experience. And that was really cool for me.
It's having opportunities. And, when I look back from myself in 2014, before that, I had been a strong, confident, independent woman, super active in the community. And I was a shell of a woman and lost and broken and isolated. And to look back and today, living my best life.
Yeah. Well, I have to say it's been just a joy to have you on today and to just get to talk with you. Of course, we get to do this a lot, but it's nice. It's always nice, though.
Right.
I
agree.
Always love it.
I love chatting with you and learning about you, and I do enjoy your text messages. and thank you for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to share my story and hear more about your story. You're a true champion to our mission and what you do in the broader picture. So,
well, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, to our listeners, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you've gotten something out of it. I hope it inspires you to just do a little more maybe than you did yesterday, that just to live a little more. That's what we try to do, despite and in spite of our disabilities. And for those of you who are going through the same thing or maybe have just lost your vision, there is hope. So come to Newview and learn about it. With that, I am going to sign off. Thank you for listening to Eyes Closed, Mind Open, and we'll see you on the next one. This episode was brought to you by the Possibilities podcast platform.
Eyes closed,